Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts, where I'm a board-certified criminal lawyer, and I am here to talk about the Petito situation. Gabby Petito. She was missing in the Grand Tetons. They think they might have found her body. And her Brian Landry, her fiance, has now gone missing. So let's kind of dive right into this. First of all, we're going to touch on domestic violence a little bit. Domestic violence is no joke. And let me tell you something, guys. It can happen to guys, but it's really not that common to happen to guys. So I'm going to talk to the guys. You never put your fucking hands on a woman. Ever. You never put your hands on a woman, ever. I don't care what's happening. You just don't do it. You've got the upper hand 9 times out of 10, and you just don't put your hands on a woman. Period. There is just no ever excuse for domestic violence. And here's the other thing. I do a lot of different kinds of cases. I have done murder cases with domestic violence. I've done regular domestic violence. And let me tell you something about people who are generally charged with some kind of low-level misdemeanor domestic violence. People that get pissed off or drunk and they feel like they have to put their hands on their woman. They are pains in the asses. These guys, they're usually pretty cheap. They don't like to pay. Number two, nothing is ever their fault. And they generally know more than you do when it comes time to the case, because they've tried a lot more cases than you have not. Anyway, that's just my little spiel on domestic violence cases. I do like a good homicide. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing like a good homicide between friends is what I always say. But a domestic violence case that ends in a homicide has a different complexion to it than, say, a couple drug dealers where somebody needed a good killing. You know what I'm saying? Or where there's a kid involved. Those have a different complexion altogether. And sometimes, when you're having a case, sometimes it can turn your stomach. But you got to you have to do your work. And everybody's entitled to a defense. Everybody's entitled to the presumption of innocence. And it's the government's burden. The presumption of innocence means that the government has to prove their case. You don't have to prove your innocence. You're presumed innocent. And that is the way our criminal justice system works. So let's get into this case a little bit. So the Petitos, the Petito and Landry, Gabby and Brian went on a cross-country tour. And they got a new van, and they started out in June. They somehow wound up in Wyoming, which is just a beautiful area. They were at near Bridger Bowl in Wyoming, which I've skied that area. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so they wind up there in about August, and they come upon, they're doing whatever they're doing, and they cause alarm because there's some scuffle between the two of them. And somebody calls it in, and then there's this interaction that they have with the police. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But one of the things that's really common in these kinds of cases, she doesn't, the witness said that Brian Landry was slapping Gabby. And when confronted, and you'll see the body cam here in a second, the cops investigate, and both of them, we're just madly in love, and we just had a dispute, and we really don't want anybody arrested, and that's her talking pretty much. And when you have somebody who's a victim of domestic violence, they'll protect their abuser oftentimes. And they'll lie for their abuser, and it's really sad, really, when you think about it. And there's also never, ever, 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 ever a time where something is so bad that you got to fucking kill somebody that you love and cherish in a domestic way. Like the Scott Peterson case, when Lacey Peterson went missing. I mean, and sometimes these things can get out of hand. They start out as a domestic violence, and the guys go crazy, and then they're dead, and then they try to cover it up, and it never works. Never works. So let's look at the body cam here. Turn this up a little bit here. There we go. And let's just see what happens here.
Bravo, Romeo, India, Alpha, November. And then what? His reaction was to do what? It's going to be out of Florida. He just grabbed it. Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, but I understand if he hit you, but we want to know if he actually hit you. Because,
So the cop asked her, did he hit you though? And now she's coming up with her response. She's sitting in the back of the squad. She's frightened. And she's frightened for two reasons. One, she doesn't want to get in more trouble because if she tells the cops something about him, probably afraid he's going to beat her more. But more than that, she's going to lose her companion for the trip. And even though it's an abusive relationship, which we don't know, in all fairness, we don't know that it is or it isn't. But it's really incredible the lengths that some victims will go to protect their abuser.
where did he hit you? Hang on.
He just said, where did he hit you? And she showed him. Right then and there, the cops had probable cause to separate them and to take him into custody, but they don't.
What's your guys' names?
Gabby.
Gabby, Brian? Okay. What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm sorry, we've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
It was a long day. We were camping yesterday, and camping got flies and stuff. I'm sorry I hit the bump there.
I was distracting him from driving. I'm sorry.
See, she takes blame for it. I was distracting him from driving. I am sorry. It's my fault. And that is super common as well.
Can I get you to step out of the vehicle for me, man?
Yeah.
Just one minute.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just some days I have really bad OCD, and
Okay.
I was just cleaning and straightening up back of the before, and I was apologizing to him and saying.
See, here she is blaming herself again for the situation. I have really bad OCD. I was cleaning and I was apologizing to him. Never a good situation.
I'm sorry that I'm so mean, because sometimes I have OCD and sometimes I just get really frustrated. Not like mean towards him, I guess my vibe is like, I hear him like in a bad mood. And I was just saying, I'm sorry if I'm in a bad mood. I've just been really stressed. I had so much work I was doing on my computer this morning.
What do you do for a living?
So now you see that young lady, beautiful, I mean, pretty girl, and but in a lot of distress. And now just imagine him beating the fucking shit out of her. I mean, or her losing her life vanishing from her body. I mean, you can't help but start thinking about that as you're watching her last moments alive.
Well, I hate to forget an organic juice bar, but I just quit my job.
Okay.
I was a nutritionist. That was my
That's
job.
cool.
And I just quit my job because I travel across the country, and I'm trying to start a blog. And have a blog and stuff. So I've been building my website, so I've just been really stressed, and he doesn't really believe that I could do any of it. So that's kind of it.
He didn't really believe I could do any of it. So it's there again. You've got the low self-esteem, and it's my fault.
I don't know. He's like down there. I don't know. We've just been fighting all morning, and he wouldn't let me in the car before. And then
Why wouldn't you let you in the car? Because
he
you're
told me I
OCD?
told me I need to calm down. Yeah, but I'm perfectly calm. I'm calm all the time, and he really.
See, one of the things that these guys who do this kind of stuff is they're control freaks. Okay, you do what I say, or we're not going to do this. I'm not going to let you in the car, or I'm going to throw all your shit out in this fucking street. Give me a break.
me out, and this is a rough morning.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't I sit you...
Let me tell you something, guys. You get so much more with honey than you do with vinegar. In other words, you compliment, it costs you fucking nothing to compliment a woman. Compliment a woman on her looks, about, oh, you smell terrific. Oh, let me get that for you. I mean, to be a gentleman costs you nothing. And you know what? And there's reward after reward after reward when you do that. Being a dick, you get nothing for that. All you do is get kicked to the curb or worse.
I'm in the backseat of my car. You're not in any trouble, okay? I'm not going to be putting handcuffs on you. You obviously don't have any weapons. I'm going to get you into the air conditioning, let you take a breath, relax a little bit, and then I'll come back and talk to you in a few minutes, okay?
Okay.
All right.
She just gets worked up sometimes, and I try and really distance myself from her, so like I locked the car and I left away from her. What happened this morning?
Do you hear how hot it was? I mean, get in some air conditioning. It's probably 100 degrees out there. So you're locking her out, and she's distancing herself. She's crazy. She's the one. It's all her.
She's trying to start up like her own little website blog and everything, so I give her time. And we really had a nice morning and everything, but she just got worked up as we were trying to get going and get our day going because we want to go like ours or something like that. Okay.
You want to tell me about those scratches on your face?
She had her cell phone in her hand. That's why I was pushing her away, just because she wanted to.
That's why I was pushing her away. He's got scratches on his face, so ostensibly he's got some defense to if he's got scratches on his face, but they're probably defensive marks, I'm guessing, from her trying not to be hit. But his statement right there makes no sense. She's got her phone in my face, and that makes no sense the way he just described that.
So I said, let's just take a breather and let's not go anywhere. Let's just calm down for a minute. She's getting worked up. And then she had her phone and was trying to get the keys from me. So I know I shouldn't push, but I was just trying to push her away to go, let's just take a minute, step back and breathe.
I pushed her away. He just admitted to what would be basically domestic assault, because pushing her away, it's the imminent apprehension of bodily harm. And you don't even have to harm somebody for an assault to occur. So if I just go like this and you think I'm going to hit you, that's assault.
And you see, she got me with her phone.
Can I see your hand? Oh, you got a mark right here.
So you're looking to see right now, the cops are looking to see, does he have any marks on his hands that's evidence of him hitting her?
Oh, that's from a wire.
That's on a wire?
Yeah.
You want to tell me about hitting that curb?
Hitting the curb was her grabbing the wheel.
She grabbed the wheel?
Yeah. She said, I can't believe you're getting pulled over, and then she did it.
Gabby, this is a very, very important question. How you answer this question is going to determine what happens next. But the only person who can...
So when the cops tell her how you answer this question is going to determine how this is going to play out, that is a lot of fucking pressure on her. That is... I don't know any police training that says you got to ask a question like that. I think I would have been a little more genteel, and I would have said, just, okay, what happened? And watch what else they say.
Answer this question is you. Think very hard before you answer the question. Do not quickly answer it. Think very hard. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him? What were you attempting to do? What was the reason behind the slapping and stuff? What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
I was trying to get him to stop telling me to calm down.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like she attempted to injure him. It's your call. It's 100% your call. I support you either way.
I'll let you get back to your parents, okay?
Okay, and that girl is dead now. Now, it's really difficult to put any blame on these cops because she admitted to slapping him, and he's saying she's crazy. And this is a pattern that I've seen over and over again. So then there was this couple that drives by, and we'll play that for you here while I'm talking. And they drive by, and they're doing their own blog post. And as they drive by, you know, this area where she supposedly is supposed to be found, they take a picture of his video, or of the van. They take a video of the van. So the van is there in the area where she went missing. Then the couple winds up giving him a ride. Another couple gives him a ride. And he said he's been camping by himself, which is another red flag. And then he drives home alone in the van. You wouldn't, if your wife is missing, or your future wife is missing, wouldn't you be apoplectic and say, where the fuck is she? I'm not leaving this state until I find her. And then so he goes back home to Northport, Florida, and the cops find the van there, execute a search warrant on the van, and he takes off. And now he's nowhere to be found. So when somebody does that, I got a case just like that right now, actually, where somebody goes off into the woods and they're trying to avoid, you know, detection or whatever, arrest. And he's not been charged with anything yet because they haven't really identified her body. They found a body in that area in Bridger Bowl where the remains match the description of Gabby. And now the Gabby's family, who lives in New York, is apoplectic, and they're trying to get his family to cooperate. And his family and their family lawyers, you know, lawyered up, and that's what my advice would have been. And we don't know where he is or what he's doing, and if the lawyer knows where he is, which I doubt that the lawyer knows where the client is, but if he does and he's harboring him, that's a bad deal for that lawyer because that's against the law. So as the lawyer, you wouldn't want to know where that person is. Anyway, so this is what you call a real classic case of domestic assault murder, and he's likely looking at murder one. And him taking off and not being available, you can lawyer up. But if you take off, that's called consciousness of guilt. And I guarantee you, once they find him, if he's still alive, the state prosecutor will use that till no end in prosecuting the case. So that's just a little update on just kind of a recap of all the things that have been going on with the Gabby Petito killing. And we'll see what happens if they find him. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like this, you know, knows what he's facing, takes his own life. But generally speaking, abusers don't do that. Nothing is ever my fault. So this has been another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts, and today we reacted to the Gabby Petito situation developing in Wyoming and Florida. And we'll keep you posted on this. We've got other reactions coming up. So stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram. If you're follow us on Patreon. If you're on Patreon, 3 months straight, you get one of these. Otherwise, you can go on Shopify and stop the self-snitching. And we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.